Hey guys, Dr. Garcia, and we're back with you today. We're talking about our how to master your metabolism, and this is something that I get so excited talking about, and it's the connection between your microbiome and your metabolism. So if you haven't heard of your microbiome yet, let's talk a little bit about what that is. Hopefully you've heard about it, but if not, your microbiome basically just means the environment inside your digestive system. So we have good, healthy bacteria, and we have unhealthy bacteria, and the mix of those two make up your microbiome. And what we're learning is that it's really, really important to have a healthy microbiome, especially when it comes to weight loss, also for chronic disease. Okay, so what we understand today is that your microbiome determines your weight more than the food you eat and more than the exercise you do. Okay, let me say that one more time. Your microbiome, or the environment in your digestive system, actually determines your weight more than the food you eat or the exercise that you're doing. So how many of you out there are trying to watch your diet, trying to eat less calories, going to the gym, spending hours doing your cardio, trying to burn calories? This is unfortunately, it's not getting the job done. It's not getting the results that people want to get. And one of the main reasons is because you're not addressing the microbiome. And again, we know what studies are showing is that the microbiome is more important. So we know this. It's a mouse study. And I'll tell you a little bit about this study because I love talking about it, and it's just so fascinating. So they have mice. They have a genetically obese mouse, and then they have a lean mouse. And they're born at the same time. They're in the same exact environment. They get the same amount of food, weighed out to the T. They do the same amount of exercise, same amount of stress. So nothing's different between these two groups of mice. The only thing that's different is the microbiome. So what we know is that an obese microbiome, a certain group of bacteria in the obese gut, actually have an increased capacity to harvest energy. So with everything else being equal, just because that obese mouse has a different group of bacteria in its gut, it's going to be heavier. It's going to gain more weight. It's going to be obese. And then this is where it gets a little bit more fascinating, is that those traits are transmissible. Okay, so what that means, if you take the bacteria from the obese mouse and transplant it into the digestive system of the lean mouse, again, without changing anything else, that lean mouse starts to become obese. And it also works vice versa as well. There was another study that they did. It was a gastric bypass study. So they took groups of obese mice, identical twins, both obese. They did a gastric bypass surgery, or a kind of a stomach staple surgery on one of the mouse, and that mouse ends up losing a lot of weight. But as a part of what happens during that weight loss is the microbiome changes, and then they take that new mix of bacteria after having the surgery and after losing a certain amount of weight. They take that new mix of microbes, and then they transplant that into his obese brother without doing gastric bypass surgery, and that mouse loses the same amount of weight. So without changing anything else but the bacteria in your gut, sends a completely different signal to your metabolism. Okay, so instead of worrying so much about how much food to eat, about counting calories, about getting your certain amount of calories burnt at the gym, really want to kind of change your mindset and have you start thinking about the importance of your microbiome, because it's that important. Also, your microbiome determines your risk for disease more than your genes. Okay, so really for the past 3 decades, our risk for disease, for diabetes, for autoimmune disease, when you go to the doctor, what does your doctor generally say? They say it's genetic. There's not a ton you can do. It's you either got blessed with good genes or you got cursed with bad genes. Okay, but we're learning that this isn't the case. That your microbiome actually determines how your genes respond to the environment. Okay, it determines the message that your genes send to your cells. It's called epigenetics. And your microbiome is probably the most important determinant of how your genes talk to the rest of your body. Okay, and this is encouraging. Hopefully, this is encouraging. Okay, but because we didn't just get bad genes. You can actually change the way that your genes express themselves. So genes have like an on-off switch. And so if you have more of the we'll say a bad gene, like a diabetes gene, you can literally turn that gene off, or you can also turn it on, right? So really, again, it's important to look at your microbiome. And unfortunately, Americans have the world's worst microbiome. So what we mean by this is that researchers have done, maybe you've heard about what's called the human genome study. So they've mapped out the entire human genome, and that's great. They've also done the human microbiome, okay, where they've mapped out all the specific families and groups of bacteria that naturally occur in a healthy microbiome or in a healthy gut. Okay, and Americans rank dead last in what's called biodiversity. So in order to have a healthy gut, a healthy microbiome, you want to have good diversity. You want to have a lot of different types of healthy bacteria, and Americans rank in the 5th percentile, okay, which is horrible, right? We have the world's worst digestive of the overuse of antibiotics. Okay, this is, every time you take an antibiotic, it's going to wipe out certain bacteria, and some of those never get replenished. They never regenerate themselves. Okay, so after years and years and years of doing that, it's no wonder we have poor microbiomes. Also because of our diet. We have kind of a limited diet. Americans we don't have a lot of different foods that we choose. A lot of my clients, they have 5 or 6 staples. Those are their go-tos, and that's pretty much it with their diet. And unfortunately, a lot of that is sugar and grain based, and these high sugar and high grain based diets actually feed unfriendly organisms. They feed yeast organisms. Okay, they feed unhealthy bacteria, and we call these weeds in the garden. When you have too many weeds in your garden, in your digestive tract, that's a bad signal. Off the good genes and turn on the bad genes. Okay, so in our Mastering Your Metabolism class, we have a class that's coming up next week, and we help people restore healthy microbiomes. So part of that course is we go through this healing fast that literally completely starves away or prunes back all the bacteria in your gut. So literally it's kind of like wiping out, starting with a clean slate, where it wipes out those. It does prune back some of the beneficial organisms as well. So, but when you have that clean slate, now you're able to kind of replenish and reseed and kind of regrow the bacteria that we want to have in there, the healthy, beneficial bacteria. So during our metabolism class, with our process, and then we show them how to reestablish this healthy microbiome. With fasting, it's really important that we know how to what to do after we're done fasting to kind of again reestablish a healthy microbiome. All right, so this class is going to start on Wednesday of next week. Okay, that's September 12th, and there's still a few spots left, but we will be closing registration. Registration will be closing probably, I'm thinking, on Monday, but don't wait. Okay, if you're interested at all, click the link. Find a link if you're watching through Facebook. We'll have it down below. If you're watching through an email, then we'll include the link in the email, and we'll see you inside Mastering Your Metabolism.